So we will be doing a double act. I'm Manan. I'm a consultant psychiatrist, and
I'm Sarah, and I'm an expert by experience, patient leader, and together we founded Promise Global. It was like a rugby scrum. They got on top of me and held my face down to the floor with my arms behind my back. There was someone on every limb. It stayed with me. And that's a quote from the Mind Report in 2013. Staff feel it's part of the job, but it spoils the job. The case for change is clear. Force is incompatible with a vision of recovery. Even if it's in the patient's best interest, it disempowers people and it perpetuates that them and us. So mental health services have come a long way, but there's still some way to go. And with Promise Global, we aspire to set and break through the frontiers of humane mental health care and eliminate reliance on force. Ours is a value-based framework that proposes a caring response to distress, and that's any sort of distress, the height of the distress or the source of distress, regardless of those, and also courage to challenge the status quo and to co-produce novel solutions. Uniting people with lived experience with those who have the professional expertise is greater than the sum of its parts, and together we really can overcome. So irrespective of where one is on the journey, there will be good practice to share. It can be celebrated and nurtured. So we see Promise very much as a springboard that can help organisations to leapfrog on their improvement journey. So, changing the nature of day-to-day interactions, that has been one of the biggest challenges. Using metaphors, we're aspiring to change that frontline discourse. Through our animation, Navigating Rocky Waters, we're capturing the trials and tribulations of recovery, while The Lion Within illuminates the world of depression. And we have other stories like this in production.
so early emphasis was on incident reporting and quantitative service evaluation. We audited all restraints that happened in 2014, and that helped us resolve a number of data quality issues. We also did a systematic review of restraint reduction programs across the globe, and qualitative research into positive and proactive care has further enhanced our understanding of issues related to restraint. What we have noticed, though, that in comparison to 2014, we have had a 40 to 50% reduction in physical interventions, and prone restraints now only happen when the patient puts himself or herself in the face down position. What is also quite striking is that there has been a 50% reduction, over 50% reduction in assaults on staff, which kind of shows what is good for patients is actually good for staff as well. However, physical interventions is only the tip of an iceberg. If we were to truly enhance patient experience, then we would start to address the invisible 9/10. The entire workforce has been galvanized into taking a creative approach and kind of making the changes that matter. So these scores that you see, mind you, this is in mental health, and 30 to 40% of our inpatients will be under a section of the Mental Health Act, and they do not want to be there. So it's a great testament to the hard work and the imagination of the workforce that they have achieved these scores, and these are 977 patient experience surveys, so a very large sample size. So the insights, innovations, initiatives from the Promise journey is being integrated into these four frameworks: protect, promote, progress, and process. These frameworks, each one of them is a day's workshop. Now, protect is the Promise safety framework. It draws on well-established psychological approaches to help staff and patients reframe and rechannel distress. Using this, staff can engage patients and carers on a journey of guided and shared discovery, so that you could identify the missed opportunities in the lead up to incidents. And that then forms the basis of a shared formulation with well-identified exits from escalating situations. promote. This is a framework which helps ideas blossom into innovation. On a busy ward, saving headspace to kind of think beyond the urgent is actually quite difficult. So if you had a simple structure with which staff can engage and go through kind of reflective practice, then you could identify the smallest change that they could implement that then goes on to change practice. In Promise, we kind of listed over 200 small initiatives, all bottom-up frontline initiatives that have had an impact. And that embeds leadership at every level of an organization and also shows that innovation is everyone's business. Progress is a governance framework. From kind of ward to board, it provides meaningful key performance indicators. Now, we manage what we measure, and that often gives rise to a culture of, we kind of do what we count rather than doing what counts. And what Progress does is it kind of brings alive the story behind the key performance indicator so that the situation doesn't arise where staff are hitting the target but are completely missing the point. And finally, Process is the Promise leadership paradigm. It kind of maps out this whole business of kind of changing the nature of day-to-day interactions and how we can go about changing this. So it's fairly complex, and it needs a fluid approach if you're going to engage patients and staff in kind of scripting and enacting a new discourse. So that's what kind of Process provides a framework for leadership to lean on while they're navigating through this maze.
So SPACE programme is the Promise Innovation Bank, and it's a portfolio of ideas, initiatives and implements that have started to transform and make a difference to care at the front line. So as Manan just mentioned, in 2014 to 2015, we listed 200 bottom-up initiatives, and these are now being categorised according to the concept of the space that they transform. These are often really simple changes. It might be waking someone up with a cup of tea in bed instead of giving them a nudge and telling them to go and get their medication. Other ideas that we've had and have put into practice are NOMI boards, which are a way of displaying the human side of staff at the entrance to the ward, creating reflective spaces, and also training staff in sensory approaches so that they can provide alternative ways to manage escalating distress. The no audit is an example of a reflective space. So staff came up with this idea because they recognise that when they have to say no to patients, that can really cause immense distress. But each occasion, when you think about it, it offers that chance to an opportunity to reflect. And so staff are very much encouraged to take that non-judgmental stance and to think, could we have said yes to that patient? If not, whether we could have met them halfway. And if they couldn't meet them halfway, did they say no in the nicest possible way with an explanation, so that it leads to a can-do culture of first say yes. And another example, which is a shared space example, and this is patients who have an open door, and these are usually people who haven't engaged well with the crisis team, but they do value time on the ward. So the patient can ring up and request a 2-night admission. They don't have to justify the reason, but there is one condition, which is that they mustn't have self-harmed within 48 hours before the admission. And this proactive approach, it promotes a shared responsibility, and it also helps to reduce that scenario where people repeatedly present at A&E with self-harm.
So if we truly wanted to decrease reliance on force, what we would need is the right care at the right time in the right setting. That way our patients will not get so unwell that they have to lose insight, and then you have to use coercion, even if it is in the patient's best interest, to get them into hospital. So there are lots of funding pressures in Cambridgeshire, and they have resulted in gaps in the services, in the pathways of care. And on the 9th of October 2015, commissioners, providers, third sector, statutory sector, kind of even organizations from education, they came together and they signed the Promise Charter with the intent to work together. And the background work that went on prior to the signing has resulted in some extremely new exciting developments, which hopefully we will be able to present in next year's Penna Awards. So Promise Global, kind of the span is quite big. So making changes happen at the coalface of an organization right through to tackling kind of the global human rights crisis in mental health. A whole host of organizations have joined the 5 founding members, which is Cambridge, Yale, Brisbane, Prague, and Cape Town. And content from Promise has been included in the WHO Quality Rights Toolkit and has been incorporated a fair bit in the DOH training events as well. So the knowledge network that we have kind of started up, we are kind of sharing a lot of information to NHS organizations, independent sector organizations, and also to over 30 plus organizations across the globe. To align organizations worldwide at the World Psychiatric Congress in November 2016, the Cape Town Promise is due to be signed.
As a patient, I can see that there are many parallels between my personal recovery story and the Promise journey. For myself and for individual frontline practitioners, it has been a journey of shared discovery, and we hope that you too can join us.